Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer. Welcome back to American Truck Simulator, and welcome to Coos, Oregon. This is not where we were last episode, and this is not the truck we were in. So we're in our Peterbilt 579, and I put it's another one of the pink ribbon skins on it, pink ribbon DLC. There's 3 skins in there. There's the light pink one that we have on our Renault T in ETS, and then I threw there's a darker one on our 579. So it's mid-afternoon. Let's get rolling. So we'll throw some lights on because it's raining. Brake is off. Put her in gear. Here we go. So yeah, I started the episode. I started recording and we were still in our Viper 389, which is made to look like a 378. And everything was cool. And we made our way down the coast from from Astoria down into Oregon and to Coos Bay. And we were almost here and the game crashed. Craziest thing. And it's going to be a little tricky getting out of here with this long trailer. Which way were we supposed to go? It did say left, did it not? It did. No. Yes. There we go. It's going to be a little tricky getting out of here. I don't want to hook the gate. Alright, I will turn left. Carefully. I think we got it. Did we hit anything? I don't think we did. I hope not. Right. So right through there. And right through there. And we've got a Detroit diesel motor in this truck making, I want to say, 585 horsepower. If you're curious. So yeah, I had a game crash just as we got to the destination, and that's always kind of a kick in the ass for me because I never want these videos to sound scripted or rehearsed, and I feel like the fact that I have no idea what I'm doing is sort of a good thing. And I have no plan when I sit down. I'm just going to drive the truck. That's the kind of gaming that I want this to be. Like, I don't want it to be, like a little show. I want it to be just, this is what happens when I game. This is my gaming experience. Show you what it's like the way I do it. Maybe see some things, some mods or whatever. Something that you want to bring into your gaming experience. I don't know. But I never want it to be like, I don't know, scripted. And so when I talk at you for half an hour and then at the very end of the episode something goes south and that's gone, it's very daunting for me to think about doing it again, like straight away, because I swear, man, sometimes I can barely think of things to say the first time, and then it's like, okay, now come up with another half hour of stuff to talk about. Don't repeat yourself. That's no good. So it is. It's frustrating when that happens. It really, really is. But what can you do? It's a game crash, Now I can't tell you. I have the rain probability turned down almost to 0 as a test, and once again, it's raining. I think they may have some kind of, not an override, but I feel like the game has its own likelihood of rain now. And it's different from Arizona to Seattle, Arizona to Washington. It's different. It's more likely to rain Pacific Northwest than it is in the desert. I totally get that. Works for me. And then your adjustments to the rain probability impact that, but it's like your adjustments are not, it's not the hand of God. It's not 100%. So we're still set pretty low, and it's still raining. So we'll see. I'll keep messing with that. I do like it, though. I do like the variances in weather. I'm really enjoying the weather variances in spin tires, even though that game, I don't think it has much impact on the kind of grip you get, but it's spin tires. You really never have any good grip at all. So, I don't know that rain is going to make it any better or any worse. Now, I can't say that in ETS there is a grip rating on your tires, and I feel like that has not been brought into ATS. Am I wrong about that? Am I crazy? I feel like the grip in ATS is more static, and the grip in ETS is a little bit more variable. I could be wrong, but I know the what is it? The comfort rating, or the sound rating. You get a sound rating and you get a grip rating for different kinds of weather in ETS, and I don't see that in ATS. So it goes. So what is going on in gaming? Nothing really. There's been some patches, but everything has been fairly static, and I feel like this is continuing from holiday season in Europe, where most of these games come from, and that would be August. But I also think we're fixing to have some big developments here soon. Hang on. Carefully. I use my left thumbstick to steer, and all my controls for everything are on the left, so it can be tricky to kind of get to them sometimes. Right. So we got that taken care of. I feel like this truck is, yeah, where's my torque at? There it is. That's a little better. Okay. We've got a load of tires. Tires aren't that heavy, even a lot of them. They're fairly, you know, rubber is pretty light, not a super dense material. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Right. So we're going to head down here, and we're going to get ready for, I guess we'll head to Arizona, because Utah, geographically, is north of Arizona. So, so the closer we get to Utah, the less we'll have to drive when that DLC drops, which I hope will be fairly soon. I mean, definitely before the end of the year, and there's only a couple months left, so we'll get that going. Really looking forward to that. I really, really am. It's seeing them, you know, building out the U.S. is exciting. I don't know if it's the same for people in Europe, because, I mean, I know there's the EU now, but I don't know if people in different European countries tend to think of themselves as all one Europe, or if they still think of their home as the country that they live in. And I feel like European countries are so different one from another that I don't know if there would ever be, carefully, I don't know if there would ever be the same kind of continent-wide unity in Europe that you have in the U.S. Although, to be fair, our country is pretty divided. It always has been. I don't know that people in Alabama really see themselves as kindred spirits with people in Vermont. But we don't talk politics here. That's a story for another day. But I guess what I was getting at is, for me, seeing the whole country built out in ATS is exciting, because I've lived so many places in the United States, and there's so many just beautiful places. I love my home. I love my country, as all people do, or should. But it's interesting to see each new place added. And I was curious, because new places have been added to ETS. But I'm curious if, as those places are added, you know, when your country or your region is added to ETS, it is, how do I want to say this? I'm curious if people look at that like, now my place has been added. Whereas with ATS, or maybe it's just me because I've lived all over, every time a new area is added, I think another area has been added, rather than my area or my specific place. It's just another area, place that I like. And I really do like Utah. I had a fantastic season one year in Moab, Utah. I think I've told you this. I moved to Moab just to mountain bike, and mountain bike I did. For one full season, I just rode and rode and rode. And Moab, it's still phenomenal mountain biking, but it's been sort of overtaken by places like Fruta and Whistler, and it's unique riding. And the problem with unique riding is it's always just right around the corner from novelty riding. And there are some trails in Moab that are definitely novelties, but there's nothing else like it. Those specific trails, there's nothing else like them anywhere in the world. So at the time, Moab was kind of the national mountain bike destination. Like, you had to go to Moab to ride. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's out in the desert in Utah. It's a pain in the ass to get there from anywhere. But you had to do it, and there were even a lot of people coming in from overseas because Moab was just Moab. It still is. But like I said, Fruta is 90 miles from Moab, and the riding is arguably better. It's less novel, but it's very, very good. And then Whistler is in BC, pretty far away, but that is also really good riding. Now, if anything, places like Whistler, their problem is they need to sort of detune because the riding is so big, it scares some people off. And there's mellow trails everywhere. I lived in Mammoth Lakes for 2 seasons, and there are plenty of greens on the mountain. There are plenty of trails that just a regular, healthy, fit person who can keep their wits about them can get up and down those trails and have a fantastic day. But there's plenty of blues and blacks and double blacks, and there's some big stuff on Mammoth Mountain. And then when you get up to Tahoe, where I also lived for 2 seasons, there's some big stuff up there too. And I'm talking like 60-foot gaps, and they tabletop a lot of the stuff. So if you do screw it up, you're going to land on a flat. I mean, you're still going to get jacked up, make no mistake, but you're not going to get as jacked up as if you case the landing and hit the back of the flat backside of a wooden ramp. You can put all the padding you want on a landing ramp, but if you screw it up badly enough that you hit the back of it rather than landing on top of it, you are going to get messed up. So they tabletop a lot of that stuff, and so you're going to fall down, but you're not going to hit a wall. But that's a problem that those big mountain resort managers need to be aware of, is that their riding is so good and so big that some people take a look at it and say, no way, man, I can't do that. And something else that's funny, living in those places and seeing people come and interact with those mountains, something you hear a lot is, because a lot of it is lift served and gondola served mountain biking. Not Moab. Moab is, you got to earn your turns. If you want to ride down something, you got to ride up it. You can take a shuttle up it, but there's no lift. But in places like Mammoth, where you can take a Gandhi up to the very tip top of the mountain and then ride down, what you'll hear people say is, oh, it's easy, right? It's just downhill. Gravity does all the work. I'll just take the Gandhi up and then I'll ride down. Piece of cake. I could do that all day. And I mean, I'm an avid, well, not anymore, but I was an avid mountain biker. And I'm talking like 5,000, 6,000 miles a year of riding. And those downhill runs on Mammoth and at Heavenly and at Whistler will absolutely kick your ass. Part of the reason is because you start them up at like 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 feet, and there's no air up there, even if you're acclimated. And living in Mammoth, I mean, Mammoth is almost 7,000 feet, so when you live there, like, you're already living in no air. But then you go up to the top, and there's like half as much as you had when you were down at the base of the mountain. You do a couple of those runs, and I mean, for me personally, I'm just wiped out, and my knees are really, really screaming. So to hear people say, oh, piece of cake, I'll just, you're just riding down a hill, no big deal. I mean, yeah, you're riding down a hill, but you're riding down a hill at like 30 plus miles an hour on a rocky, bumpy trail on a bike that's trying to spit you off. And the flow of the trail, what makes them so great and what makes those places so popular is the way the trails just flow and turn. It's like a racetrack. There are challenging turns, and you need to address things like entry speed and line, and there's a lot to be aware of. There's air, be aware of that. And they post signs by the trails letting you know, like, hey, you're about to come to a kicker, you're about to come to a drop off. If you hit it full speed, you are going to be airborne. And there's wall rides and all kinds of stuff. So it's not just coasting down a hill sitting down. You're standing up fighting a bike that's jackhammering under you. That will wear you out for sure. So that's a fun thing to experience when you live in a resort town, is the Flatlanders coming in talking about how they're going to kick your mountain's ass. All right, you have at it. That mountain's been there for like 30 million years. You go do your thing. So Anyway, that has nothing to do with gaming. Although it might, because something I've been thinking about this week is, as we game, what percentage of our life is gaming? And as long as you're maintaining a balance, I think it can be any appropriate number you want. I don't know how we're going to do this. Percentage, right? Gaming might be 2% of your life, 5% of your life, might be 30% of your life. As long as the other 70% is balanced and, you're taking care of yourself, body and mind is good, your relationships are good, work is good, job is good, money is solid. As long as that stuff's taken care of, you can game all you want. But in the time that we have that is not work and friends and family and sleep, with what's left over, what is an appropriate amount of gaming? And using those resort towns as an example, you live in a place like Mammoth, as I did, and I snowboard a little bit, I ski a little bit, but most of the skiing that I do is alpine touring, and I got into it as a component of mountaineering because I couldn't ski. I'd snowshoe in, right? Like if you want to get on a mountain, if you want to get on an ice climb, you got to get to it. And the way that most people do that is they skin in on alpine touring skis. You put your skins on and you skin in, you do your climb, whether it's an ice climb and you just play on it for an afternoon, or whether it's a big mountain and you spend a week on it. And then when you're done, you pull your skins off and you telemark out. That's cool. Well, I was snowshoeing in, and I can snowshoe uphill at approximately the same speed as my pals that were on their skis with skins. But then when we're done, right, they take the skins off, they unlock the heels, and off they go down the mountain. And I'm basically walking out. So I was losing a lot of time, and they were sitting at the truck waiting for me for quite a while for me to stomp out my snowshoes. So I got into alpine touring, and that's about the extent of my ski life. But I do like the mountain biking. That's how I ended up in Mammoth. And I'm an avid mountain biker, or again, I was. I've drifted away from it, but I was an avid mountain biker, really avid. And I met people that were avid skiers, and then you would see tourists come in, and they're people that come up from LA. Mammoth is LA. Tahoe is San Francisco. Those are the where most of the people that go to those places live, respectively. So you'd have people come up from Los Angeles, and they'd say, I make it up here 16 weekends a year. And that's a lot. I mean, when you think of how many weekends there are in a winter, there's not that many. And if you're coming up there every weekend that you can, but, maybe some weekends somebody's getting married, you got to go to a wedding, you just ran out of time, you're working on a work project, I don't know. Let's say winter is 5 months long, and you get up there 16 weekends. That's basically like 4 weekends out of 5, you're up there skiing, concentrating, right? That's a lot 16 weekends on the mountain, that's a lot of skiing. It really, really is. I would say that probably puts you in the top, top 5%, top 1% as far as avid skiers. That is a lot of skiing. But then I knew people in Mammoth, I worked with people in Mammoth that have skied 100 days a year for the past 15 seasons. And suddenly your 16 weekends a year is it's not that impressive, So those are people that have taken their hobby. Well, it's more than a hobby at that point. It's a passion. They've taken their passion and they've sort of built their life around it, right? They live in a place like Mammoth or Tahoe or Heavenly, right? Or Big Bear or wherever. And all they do is ski. And very often when those people are part of a couple, their partner skis just as much as they do. It's sort of the only way that works. And then their kids are up there skiing when they're 6 years old, 7 years old, right? They're skiing like I could never dream about skiing. And they're like toddlers. They're little tiny kids. So the whole family is just passionate about skiing. There's a term you hear at places like Mammoth that somebody has a ski in, ski out condo. And basically what that means is their patio is on the ski back trail. So when they want to go skiing, they walk out their patio doors, put their skis on, and go just a couple hundred yards down the hill to the Gandhi, right? Hop on, go to the top of the mountain, ski. And then when they're done, when they're coming back down the mountain, instead of taking the trail that goes back to the Gandhi, they take the ski back trail that runs behind the condos, and they ski like literally to their back door, like 5 feet from their back door. It's a crazy, crazy lifestyle. And there are people that are totally into it. And I know people in Moab that were into climbing that way, rock climbing, base jumping, kayaking, paddling, anything, you name it. I'm reluctant to say there was no balance in their hobby, their sport, their passion, but there really wasn't. That was it. That was like all they did. And I'm totally okay with that. As long as it works for you. That's my policy. If it works for you, I support you. I'm your biggest fan. But I'm curious where the various balances are. Whether you set a limit for yourself, a time limit, a day limit. You know, I'll game X days per week. I'll game X hours per day. Or maybe break it down per month. You know, I'll game no more than X hours per month, or no less than. That's another way to think about it, right? If it's your thing, I try to do it, this many hours a month. So I don't know. I guess it's different for everybody, and it's a strange hobby. It's evolved so much in my lifetime, from games that were in hindsight fun but really kind of meaningless and trivial, just silly almost, to what we have now, which is immersive, right? Really able to, maybe it's not quite there yet, but it's getting close to a point where I feel games can begin impacting us. I gotta go. I know we're gonna take a ticket here, but we're okay. We gotta go. I know what I'm about to say is gonna sound backwards, because the obvious answer is, yeah, of course they do. They make us incredibly frustrated and angry. But I was going to ask if games have reached a point where they can impact us emotionally yet. So yeah, of course, games can make us angry, but I don't think for the most part that's a developer's goal. I don't think many developers want you to hate their game, although some do. What was that one where, Getting Over It. The guy in a bucket. There's a guy in a bucket trying to paddle himself up a mountain with a canoe paddle. I feel like that game was designed to make you angry. But for the most part, I think developers want you to love their game and enjoy it. Enjoy yourself. And yet, these games can be frustrating and challenging. And I'm not talking about game crashes or mod conflicts. Really, with the lights, the gameplay itself, I feel like, can be at times frustrating. So sure, they can make us angry, but I don't know. I play mostly sim games, and sim games don't have characters in them. But I've played a couple RPG games. I've played some games that were very atmospheric. I've watched some games that were very atmospheric and kind of creepy. And I don't mean horror survival jump scare games. I mean games that just had a setting that was very ominous, right? That's making you feel something. As far as interacting with characters in a way that I feel connected to them, in the same way that I feel connected to the characters in a movie, no, I can't say for me personally that I've really experienced that yet. But I know we'll get there. I believe we'll get there. And I think the fusion of next-gen graphics, motion capture, and AI, I think it is going to get there. I know I watch a cat named the Rad Brad. He plays a lot of RPG and adventure games. And the idea now that as you're interacting with somebody, like, they'll ask you a question and 3 possible responses pop up on the screen, and you pick one, right? you pick an answer. I think in 5 years or 10 years, that's going to look quaint, because what's going to happen is the character on screen is going to ask you something. You're just going to answer it. And voice recognition is going to see what your answer was, essentially. See, hear, I guess would be a better term for it. Yeah, AI and voice recognition together are going to hear your answer and immediately use that to facilitate the next evolution of the story. And there can't be an infinite number, not for a long time, but your answer can at least decide where you want things to go next, right? So in other words, a character would say, like, do you want to go north to do task A or south to do task B? And if you say task B, they know you mean south. But if you say south, they know you also mean task B. So their response could be predicated on that. And then, of course, if you tell them something oddball, I want to go east, then they say, I don't know, they give you some canned response. Sorry, that's not an option. Whatever. But it'll get there. And so we'll get to a point where we're just talking to a video game. I can do that now in the F1 franchise. I can just tell my crew chief what I want to happen. Now there's a list of things that I can do, but it's a long list. There's probably 30 items on there. And when you think about the number of things that you would want to do in an F1 race, I'd say that covers just about all of them. It's box this lap is the obvious one. You can ask about race status, who's winning, how far back am I, stuff like that. How are my tires? What's the weather? But then as far as telling them what you want to happen, there's not that many things. You can tell them what tires you want next. You can tell them when you want to pit. There's no more refueling in F1. You can tell them to replace or adjust your wing, your front wing. That's about it. I think they're replacing front wings still if you damage your front wing, but I think if you damage your back wing, you're done for the day. Yeah, I'm trying to think when the last time I saw a rear wing, sir. I'm trying to think when the last time I saw a rear wing replaced in F1. It's been a while. Yeah, I don't think they're doing that anymore. You're just done for the day. So, point being, there's a limited number of things that a real F1 driver would ask their crew chief, and the majority of them are represented in that list of options they give you, and so that's it. I mean, that's all you could talk about. When you get into a more open world game, there's obviously a lot more things that you could talk to a character about. So, we'll get there. And at that point, I think the emotional response, the emotional connection that we can have to a game can continue to evolve as well. But I think it'll get there. It's strange for me to hear, I don't want to be emotionally immersed in gaming. I have no interest in that. I like to be practically immersed in gaming. But at no point, I've said this before, at no point when I'm driving this truck do I feel like I'm really driving a truck. I'm really driving a truck in a video game, but I've never, sometimes driving a car, sometimes when I'm racing, I'll sort of forget where I am. But again, I've never actually thought that I was in a car. I just really, really got into the act of playing a race game, playing a race sim. But it's interesting, sometimes and this would be more in RPG world, less in sim world, but sometimes you'll hear on the headset, typically a kid, giving somebody grief about how they're playing, and the gist of it is, the tone of it is like, dude, you need to relax. What do you think you think this is really happening? And I guess that's a different take for me on gaming, because I do and always have tried to game as, not realistically necessarily, but I try to make decisions in games that I would make in real life. And so something like character building, right? When I'm creating a character, I just create myself. I know some people do that automatically. I know some people create a character that is the exact opposite of themselves, have a little fun with it, make some kind of creation, right? A little oddball. And I know other people don't give a shit either way. They just hit random and move on, right? Like, this doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Oh, fantastic. We're at Ukiah. Okay, so I just got the warning that customer is expecting delivery. It is getting a little bit late for us. We need to sleep. It is getting dark. I don't want to do the whole video in darkness. And we're at 30 minutes. But then here we are getting to Ukiah and everything works out. Perfect. So some people do seem to take it more seriously than other people. And neither is right or wrong. It's just different ways of approaching gaming. But I will occasionally hear somebody on the headset say something like, "You're an idiot. What, do you think this is real?" And what I like about people, I don't necessarily like that comment. I don't like when people are rude or uncivilized in any context. But what I like about that comment is, I think we're going to go left here because there's nowhere else we can go left down there unless we go around the block. Yeah, so we'll make this left. What I like about that comment is it tells me that is a person that is more concerned about their gameplay experience than they are about their sort of avatar experience. Right? They're not doing this as an extension of themselves. They're just doing it for fun. And what that allows them to do is the best thing possible to beat that game or to be good at that game. And that's something that I wouldn't say I struggle with it, but I know I don't necessarily want the fastest car in a race sim. I want the car that I like the most or that I would drive in real life. And that's not necessarily the best car or the fastest car. I really like the Ford GT. Always have. Big Ford fan. Well, in iRacing, the Ford products are not necessarily the best. Definitely not in GTE. So, where does that leave you? And for, oh, sorry, sir. Hit you with the main beams. And so where does that leave you as a gamer? If you want to play realistically, as we do, us sim gamers, you may not have access to the best stuff. But at the same time, do we ever want to get to a place where we just kind of, I wouldn't say phone it in, but where we're just sort of, where's our, there it is. Where are we at on time? We're at 33 minutes. What do you want to do? You just want to skip it? Yeah, let's skip it. It's dark and that backup beeper. So we'll pull over here. We'll hit the button. And we'll see how we did. But we are making our way down south. Right. Right through here. Right about here. There we go. How'd we do? We did make it on time. No tickets, no damage. Oh, look at that. And we are 36. We're level 36. We're maxed out. I mean, there's other levels above it, but we don't care about those. Right. Folks, thanks for stopping back to check out The Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of American Truck Simulator. We'll see you next time. Take care now.